Hello everyone and welcome to today's panel discussion session, AI, ChatGPT, blockchain and digital currency, current impact and trends in 2030. And I am your host, Ritika Chakravarti. Before we get started, we would like to go over a few house rules for our attendees. The session will be in listen only mode and will last for an hour, out of which uh, last for actually this is a panel discussion. It will last for 1.5 hours, and out of which last 30 minutes will be dedicated to Q&A. If you have any questions during the webinar to the organizers or our panelists, use the Q&A window. Also, if you face any audio video challenges, please check your internet connections or you may log out and log in again. And very important announcement for the certificate of attendance. Participants need to attend the complete webinar to qualify for the certificate. Also, should fill the survey form which will be sent in the attendees thank you email and answer correctly the 3 multiple choice questions based on the webinar. The certificate of attendance shall be sent to the audience in next 5 to 7 working days after the webinar. So without any further delay, I will hand over the session to our moderator, Paresh. Over to you, Paresh.
Thank you, Ritika. Hello, everyone. How are you? I would say you good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. This is truly a global seminar. And once we will learn from our speaker, we will realize that we have such a esteemed panel with us. Next slide, please. And to begin with the seminar, I would like to introduce you with our esteemed panel. So I'll begin with Agnelo. Agnelo, please go ahead.
Hi, good day everyone. This is Agnelo here. I'm based out of Mumbai in India. I work for an IT services company in India where I head the blockchain practice for the company. Thank you.
Thank you, Agnelo. So we have now the expert from India. And let's go to other part of the world and we go to Antoinette. Antoinette, please go ahead.
Hello, I'm Antoinette Rodriguez. I'm based out of Brooklyn, New York City. I'm about one stop away from Wall Street, one train stop. I founded the MarFi Mastermind community for financial advisors, which mixes AI with traditional marketing. I'm the host of the Wall Street Growth Hacks video podcast, and I'm basically well-versed in scaling what we call wealth management businesses. I'm a former financial advisor for Merrill Lynch, and I'm also the most recent chairwoman of Financial Advisor Magazine's Invest in Women conference. And on a personal note, I am the very proud mother of a high school senior who has just accepted a position at Princeton University, which I'm very proud about, but I also know that I'm going to work for the rest of my life to pay for. And finally, I'm a 9/11 breast cancer survivor and a sassy Puerto Rican, or also known as Latina, born and raised from Brooklyn, New York.
Wow, isn't it? We traveled from India, Mumbai to the New York straight away. So we have one leader, technical leader from Mumbai to New York. We have an amazing, successful woman businesswoman. Then we move on to now Roberto. Roberto, please, about you.
Hello, everybody. My name is Roberto Capodieci. I'm an Italian currently living in Indonesia, in Bali, in the island of Bali. I've been spent 12 years in the United States before coming here. In the past 19 years, I've been all around Southeast Asia. I am a proud father of 4, and I've been into IT since I was a little kid. I've been into decentralization since before blockchain, when BitTorrent was a thing and peer-to-peer network were something to worth studying. And I've been into the field and work actively on blockchain for projects that are not related to finance, but more document management, allotment, tokenization, other things. And I do this as a consultant and also running companies that do this kind of service. So that's all about me. I'm here to answer questions later.
Thank you, Roberto. We will continue asking you and learning a lot from you because you have a very diverse portfolio, right from the business onward to other area of life. So now we go towards Lola. Lola is more technical, so let's hear from Laura.
Yeah, nice that I'm here, and nice that everybody who's listening is here. And I'm Lola. I'm currently software security engineer in global R&D at Carl Zeiss Semiconductor Manufacturing Technology, and in the specific business unit caring about photomask solutions. So we are like part of the process of the global value chains to create semiconductors. And our machines we are constructing, they help actually to reduce waste, or to in concerning the photomasks, and going in an early step in the reduction to reduce mistakes of the process of those chip production. And my current position is similar, because we want to focus early on the integrity, availability, and confidentiality of our information systems. And therefore, we want to build our systems secure by design. And I built, in order to monitor the whole process, a product lifecycle information security management system, which is looking at the whole value chain of the product and increase security in that way. And before that, I was a researcher and worked in governmental positions. I was researching on critical infrastructures and cybersecurity, and in the government, I worked in the Foreign Office on security policies and on trading policies in the Ministry of Economic Development. And happy to be here today.
Thank you, Lola. I think our audience, our participant is going to be very happy to having diverse set of technical expertise as well as business expertise. About me, so I have a surprise for you. So we travel from India to New York to Germany to tropical land back to the north. So I'm in freezing Finland. Right? So I'm here in Helsinki, sitting in my office, about to go in a new studio, but it did not happen. My name is Paresh Rathod, and I'm also a technocrat like Agnelo, originally from India, then moved to UK, and now settled down here with my family. I'm a very good human being, right? So during this topic, like artificial intelligence, ChatGPT, blockchain, digital currency, so it's a good reminder that we are all human. And this panel is more about, let's say, a good discussion together, and we will add some value to you. So you're gonna having some takeaway. For example, if I ask my host to having next slide, please. Yeah, so this is a journey together, right? So it's not alone. I will speak less and our expert will speak more, because that's where we will learn together, right? So our idea journey is we will learn about the, let's say, the foundation, what, then we will see some functionality, how, then we will see what is the impact currently in society, and then we will check the future. And remember, we are focusing on the two core technology, artificial intelligence and blockchain. Next slide, please. These are the key takeaways. So when you are with us, we understand you have spent your time, and then we will give you some value, or that you will having some takeaway. So we have certain takeaway, and you already learn, mainly about this cutting edge technology. How can we leverage this technology? What are the constraints there? What are the advantage? And finally, actually, what's going to happen in 2030? We will see the realistic view. That's our objective. So hope you enjoy the journey with us. And now we start the questions. So we have a certain, let's say, outline for you. Next slide, please. So these are our outline of question about foundation. And I would like to start about the artificial intelligence. But before that, I will ask our expert to also say very briefly about their technical background. Of course, they already introduced, but it's good to know, right? So when they start. So if I will ask to Errod, right? Antonia is actually known as Errod, so I will say Errod. What is the realistic understanding of artificial intelligence? For example, if I want to say to my baby, I have a 7-year-old daughter that I can explain to her, or to Granny, what is artificial intelligence?
Well, my background from a technical perspective is more, in the space of ChatGPT. AI has been around for a long time, obviously, in our industry. All you need to do is try to open up a bank account, and you'll see that. So if I'm explaining it to a small child, I would explain it to them clearly on their level. Like, for example, I do know with ChatGPT, if you have a small child, you realize if you read to them at night that they want to hear the same stories over and over again. And I'm Latina, I'm Puerto Rican by background and ethnicity. When I was a young girl, my mother, who was a real big baseball fan, and that's also why I got the A-Rod, there's a famous baseball player who died a long time ago named Roberto Clemente. So she would add that baseball player's name into every story. So Little Red Riding Hood, he was always a hero. So in terms of a small child, what they can do is probably going to be more important than what it is. So ChatGPT, for example, they can actually create new stories. And in fact, small children are doing that right now. So they can create customized stories. So artificial intelligence is not a human being, right? It's like more of a machine, and also related to, where it's getting its data from. But I think that part of it's a little heady. I think when you're explaining it to a small child or an older person who is not very familiar with technology, basically you're looking at kind of like the robots, right? So the robots go way back, and I'm not going to date myself on how many movie references I have about robots, but I would very much put it along the lines of what is very real to them. So the children are very comfortable with technology, and just show them a technology like Alexa or something that they're already using that uses artificial intelligence.
Yes, that's a very good point. And I think Lola is also expert on artificial intelligence. So I'm sure I can simply, Errod, explain to my daughter what you are saying. Surely we will see this webinar later on. But let's also learn from Lola, because she is like a more technical engineering side. So how do you feel, Errod? Is it a good idea?
Yes, absolutely.
Lola, please explain us what is artificial intelligence.
Yeah, just to like an image I liked about ChatGPT as well was being like a parrot, because that's actually a good image, I think, for kids as well. But coming more from the background, the scientific background, the classical definitions of AI, they differ. There's a definition from the European Parliament. They define AI as a machine capability, a machine capable being like a human or capable of logical reasoning and planning and creativity. So what usually was meant to be a human who would be needed, it's now machines who can do it as well. Microsoft has another definition. They say more it's a technology. It's a technology which will help human beings. Of course, they want to sell as well their GPTs. So there are different definitions. Others from the neuroscience world, they say more it's a artificial intelligence is a science. It's a part of a computer science. So yeah, what's just important to me, it's it's artificial, it is intelligence, but it's not human intelligence.
Yes. Would you also say that behind the artificial intelligence there is a big data engine which provides input?
Yeah, it's a large language model. So of course, like GPTs, generative pre-trained transformers, they are called like this because they generate answers because of their pre-training on a large language model, like on a really huge data set and a lot of parameters. So this is the training base, and then you can further train, but with like for example at ChatGPT they have the possibility to give feedback. So in the next software version, which is now GPT-4, the OpenAI, which is the company behind ChatGPT, they already used the user feedback in order to improve the chatbot. And as well, you might have heard about the article in the Times magazine about Kenyan workers who helped as well OpenAI because they were contracted to, but it was very difficult sometimes to eradicate like abusive speech, because this is still humans who need to improve the chatbot, because the chatbot is just calculating the probability of the next word following the other, and looking into patterns therefore.
Yes, exactly. So Lola, you can enlighten us, about artificial intelligence. I have one practical suggestion for our panel expert. If you want to add something, you can just raise your hand, right? And then we get involved in discussion. Let's make it like a coffee table discussion, so our participant can also enjoy like they are with us, right? Sitting with us in one big table. Can we do that? Fine. Yes, Errol, please go ahead. Do you want to say something?
So to add to Lola's excellent definition, I wanted to, and maybe she could more speak to this, so that when people are using things like ChatGPT, they understand kind of the limitations of that, right? And where that data set comes from. And I know later we'll probably get into bias and some of these other issues with it. But Lola, if you could maybe discuss a little bit more about, I know September 2021, I believe was the cutoff, but the limitation of it. I think it's important for our panel to know, or not our panel, our audience rather.
Yes.
Yeah, first
both of us.
Sorry. Okay.
Please go ahead, Lola.
The limitation of ChatGPT was that it was trained on a data set from the internet until September 2021. But the new one, the GPT-4, which is available to certain users, already has newer information. Even though the both will never be 100% accurate, because the thing about GPTs is they create new things, so they can hallucinate as well. So it's not that they work like completely scientifically, and that they are humans and that they can judge. They are just algorithms behind it. So the algorithm is calculating what is the probability of the next word following the other, and from there you can they can improve, but they can improve through human feedback, through further training them. But it's there as well. AIs already they try to help as well with sources. So I think this is very valuable when you know what was the source of the content. But overall, at the moment, GPT can help, but it can also hallucinate.
Yes. So there are a lot of, let's say, the functionality from artificial intelligence, and we have now tools like ChatGPT. Roberto, you have something to add. Please add.
Sure, my 2 cents on artificial intelligence in really layman terms, so really for my grandma to understand. If you think about a search engine, it's just a report data that he's been collecting around. An artificial intelligence like a GPT does pretty much the same thing, but elaborates the data and bring it back following logic. But at the end, a search engine without data cannot bring any answer. An artificial intelligence without the data for the training cannot bring any answer. And based on what is being fed, the answer can be a little bit biased on the data that he has. So a search engine that is only been exposed to website about phishing, whatever question, whatever search thing you have is going to provide you a website about phishing. So is the artificial intelligence. If the data set that is being used to train have a certain tendency or is not really objectively variegated, then is going to be replying or providing answers that are pretty much based on the data that he has collected. In fact, the biggest risk that there is now is that he start training on his own results. So in a recursive way, he's going to bring what happened to the newsfeed of Facebook. You're only going to see things you want to read without exposing you to the diversity of the information. But nonetheless, I become 10 times more productive using the support of this very magical search engine, that how I see it, that can not only give me the result, but also explain and reason in a certain way, magical way about it. But the biggest threat, on my point of view, because I'm an advocate of decentralization, is that AI are all centralized, because the training costs a lot of money to do. The model built with the training is not so heavy, can be actually taken around easily. So we could have at home our own small artificial intelligence brain that produce result, but it will be very expensive to buy because making it costs money and costs a lot of work as well. So there is a future where possibly a big artificial intelligence training set and data set are actually decentralized, so are supported on a model very similar to the one of blockchain. And that's going to be the day that there is no possibility to control what the AI is going to return as an answer, because it's really decentralized even in the way that he learns. But there is all a big story to talk about this. But
Absolutely. And I know Lola has raised her hand. We will continue discussing, but we have other technical experts. For example, Agnelo and Roberto is also, they hold expertise on decentralized technology and blockchain. So if we move our little bit focus from the AI ChatGPT to a little bit on blockchain, Agnelo, if we can ask you, what is the decentralized technology? Because that's the backbone, like artificial is the backbone, and then we say blockchain, then it's more like a ChatGPT. So can you also help us to understand decentralized technology and what is the buzz about blockchain?
So blockchain, obviously blockchain is not as old as AI is, right? AI is the research on AI has been happening for many years now. Blockchain from that perspective is more recent technology. It came to light in about 2008 2009 timeframe, right, when the first blockchain network was kind of established, and that was called Bitcoin at that point of time. Now the whole concept about blockchain being a decentralized technology is that you fundamentally are having multiple nodes or multiple computers, if I may call for simplicity, on which data is being kind of replicated, right, in the sense. And because the data is being replicated on these multiple technologies, it is never going to be very easy for someone to say this is correct, this is not correct, or a simple transaction like, right, I sent 100 euros to Paresh. Paresh cannot tomorrow come back and say, oh, he did not give it to me, simply because the same transaction is replicated on millions of servers. While Paresh can control his one node and change things, he cannot do this at the same time. And this, at the center of this is something called the consensus algorithm, basically, basis which a transaction is either added to the network or not added to the network. And that is the concept of decentralization. Now, decentralization is not a new concept in computer science, really speaking. We've in the past built many decentralized solutions, really speaking, but this particular technology makes that the center of itself, really speaking. And that's how we are kind of, it is also called a trust machine, really speaking, because trust is engineered by software code, really speaking, the consensus mechanism, and it is not implemented by a third party or an intermediary, for that matter, basically.
would you say it's like an open ledger, right? So open ledger is there or not? Yeah.
It is an open ledger, and that is also a concern because privacy of information is a concern. But yes, you're right. It's an open ledger. Everybody can see what is there on that, and so nobody can come and say this is not correct. Yes, it is an open.
So if we understood correctly, the internet is like a backbone of one huge network, massive
Yes,
network, and the
yes.
blockchain is the value creation on top of this internet, right?
You are absolutely right, actually, on that. Yes.
So for example, why I'm asking you, because currently I heard about this digital payment and online payment and cryptocurrency, and um, my child gets very confused. So he's keep asking me that, Daddy, do you have Bitcoin?
So
How
there
should
is
I say him that I wrote a paper about decentralizing 2010. Please, Edward, go
there's a
ahead.
key concept that I would like to kind of get the audience understand, right? Basically, the idea is
Yeah.
cryptocurrency and digital currency are two different things, really speaking. There is a lot of confusion, and it is not the audience's fault. It is nobody's fault. We have created the confusion ourselves. But
Yeah.
a cryptocurrency is something that is generated on the network itself, basically, right? And whether it is called a Bitcoin or it is called Ether, okay, it is a digital token that is native to the blockchain network. So Bitcoin is a
Yes.
digital token native to the Bitcoin network. Ether is a digital token native to the Ethereum network. Digital currency, on the other
Yes.
side, which is also called CBDC, the full form of CBDC is central bank digital currency. Central bank
Exactly.
is a currency instituted by the central bank, right? And it is not different from your currency notes that are there today. So, like I would explain it, a currency note is a physical token. A
Yes.
currency note is a promissory note, really speaking, right? It says that I owe the bearer XYZ amount, right? The digital token or the CBDC or the digital currency is the digital form of that. If you might want to call it a digital twin. So if you have a €5 bill, let's say for example, you could have a €5 digital token on the blockchain network, basically. But the key difference between the cryptocurrency and the CBDC is that cryptocurrency is volatile, which means its value goes up and down very frequently.
Yes.
CBDC is a stable coin, really speaking, whose value remains pegged to the underlying dollar or euro or rupee or whatever that is. And that's the key difference
Yes.
between a cryptocurrency and CBDC.
So we will continue checking whether it's, like CBDC is a centralized or decentralized, what are advantage and disadvantage in a later session. But you explain fundamentally very nicely that what is the decentralized technology, what's the buzz about blockchain, and then something about cryptocurrency. Robert, you are also more or less an expert on blockchain and digital currency. So would you like to add something in what Agnelo says?
Yeah, sure. I understand that for the general public, many terminology can create a lot of confusion. I lecture and teach consensus mechanics. I want to explain that the centralized system is not just about sending cryptocurrency here and there, right? So the main point that I would like to highlight and clarify is this. Decentralized network, mostly using peer-to-peer technology to exist, it is in practical terms many computers connected to each other where no computer is more important than the other. There is no leader, there is no central point of failure. So it's impossible to kill a peer-to-peer network based on these terms, because as soon as I kill one server, two more can come out on another side. And they are distributed worldwide. So it would take a coordinated operation of law enforcement around the world to shut down physically all the network. And this is the fascinating thing, because it lives, it cannot be blocked. When in the past this came up, there were people having a website where people can download music and movies, and very easily law enforcement will go there, arrest the person running the website and shut down the website because they were centralized. As soon as BitTorrent came out, where people would distribute, and there was not a central server or one particular person to go to, the regulator need to change the rules and start punishing the users, because there was no possibility. This was a very interesting shift that explained the technology in a very practical way. So you don't have anymore somebody responsible for the system. And this is the key for the blockchain as well, not only for BitTorrent, where people were downloading. There is now one central party that is important, and this is all the key when Satoshi Nakamoto, this acronym behind the team or the person that started the Bitcoin blockchain, wanted to be assured that there is nobody to go to stop the system. In fact, any decentralized project should require to be for the people, to the people, not with a company behind that is sponsoring, running, with a charming face that can take decision about the network. It should be cooperated by everybody. That's what makes it very decentralized. But in reality, we are far away from real decentralization, because even when we connect to the internet, we use ISP. There are 3 ISP in a country, so there is bottlenecks that are centralized in the whole process of operating data online. Probably Starlink, Elon Musk network of satellite is one good approach to real decentralization, because I can enter any satellite and can go out. So mesh network that were in the past something are coming back in cities, because that brings real decentralization. So I can connect to any Wi-Fi I see around. It's like a little bit with the cell phone and towers, and I can be in a network without being going through one single point where I can be spied, censored, or monitored in any way. So there is a lot to do, and a lot of things that are happening that are very interesting in terms of decentralizing.
Excellent point, I think, because the core idea is to human to be there, right? So it's when we call about decentralized network, it's a community of values. So for example, we 4 or 5 or we have 1,000 people joining us, so we create our own decentralized network, right? So rather than controlling one entity like a proprietary Microsoft or something, it's more like a decentralized.
In simple terms, we remove the man in the middle. We interact one with the other through this network. There is no control, so we really remove the man in the middle. Every time I have a hard time with my bank to move my money because they're still missing a document or whatever, I tell them, you are the biggest promoter of cryptocurrency, because there is nobody there giving me hard time to move my own money. I decided what I do anytime, and I do it, and it works. So that's in synthesis, right?
How true. This is a good point, because we are a midway of our webinar. So we almost spent, 30 minutes like it flies, right? 32, 34 minutes is flying away. In our second phase, we can be like more straight to the point. So we can cover all the aspects we want to cover. Is that okay with you?
Sure, yeah.
It's fine, right? Great. So we learn about, let's say, cutting edge technology like artificial intelligence, blockchain, decentralization, ChatGPT. Now we move on to the next phase. Of course, we will see along the way the pros and cons and how it's benefiting or what are the challenging along the way. So we cover that later on. Next slide, please. So after the foundation, let's see the application. What are the uses in our real life, whether it's a work or whether it is, let's say, social context. So if we ask to Errod that how AI like ChatGPT are transforming customer experience, right? Or revolutionizing the finance services, because that's where your expertise lies, right?
Sure. Well, financial services, AI is obviously not something new. But going back to one point is we are generally a very risk-averse industry. And the reason is because of the large amount of risk that our customers have, right, in privacy issues. So we generally on AI and any kind of technology, we tend to be slow adopters. Also, there's licensure and obviously protection of consumer accounts. But on any given day, if you've had a bank account, and again, this is one of the things I know Roberto said, and I do want to point this out from a cultural perspective. In the United States, we assume that everybody has a bank account. We assume that they have access to the internet.
Okay.
And part of the whole, appeal of decentralized finance is the fact that in fact, certain part of the world does not. There's an unbanked situation, or if you want to run out of the Ukraine and take your money with you, right? But for financial services, there's all types of things. You have the enhanced customer engagement. If you've ever used if you've ever opened up a bank account, you're able to open up bank accounts. You're able to answer questions in the middle of the night. It's a 24/7 availability. From an investment management perspective, we have loan and credit risk assessment. We have personal financial management, so you can have your apps, right, to keep track of your spending. And I gave that to my daughter for a very specific reason as she heads off to college. You have investment analysis.
Wow.
And this is where, of course, you have to be a little bit careful with ChatGPT, right? Because you have the ability to identify opportunities and risk and arbitrage and hedge investments. And then, of course, there's the biggie, right, which is fraud detection. And I read something recently, or heard from someone recently, who said that even though it's the fancy, the marketing, the ChatGPT that seems to get a lot of the buzz, where the majority of money is spent in financial services is actually the back end, the cybersecurity, the fraud protection, right? So.
Here we go, right? So it's along the way, the benefits, some challenges also comes. So this is the, as we were talking about, advantage, disadvantage of technology. Lola, would you like to add something?
Yeah.
For example, how is possible, technically, or what are the limitations?
Yeah, of course. I mean, for me, there are specific 2 use cases for our company. But there are a lot of, like, we're 38,000 people and growing in the whole ZEISS corporation. So, but what I see, what we are experiencing at the moment is the increase of efficiency when used properly. So there is a risk that information might flow to other corporations, as we have seen with the Samsung case. So you have to know how to use GPTs in order to help you to increase efficiency. So what I see in software development, for example, you can increase hugely efficiency, because you can let ChatGPT help you creating software, and as well help you finding bugs, which took like a lot of hours before, or finding code smells, and therefore increase your code, your code quality. But at the same time, you have as well, as we have mentioned before, Roberto has mentioned as well, that the GPTs at the moment, they are based on what they have found in the internet. So of course, in GitHub and other like where you find free and open source software, you also find software with vulnerabilities, which is a cybersecurity threat. And you also find in another way, or another use case, I see that's the service industry, which is, of course, you have the information from the internet, and there we can see that like everyone could set up a website, so the information could come from a lot of sources which are not always correct. And so this is criticality about it, but at the same time, the chance we have, because if we know how to use GPTs, I think they can increase efficiency, productivity, and as well they, like we are experiencing with that, we're experimenting with the technology, and I think it will help as well our customers.
Amazing, isn't it? In few years, in 80s, we're struggling with technology, and where we are now. Roberto, you have something to add there?
Yeah, sure. In Italy, Italy has been a international case. ChatGPT has been banned by there is a particular office in our government that secure people privacy, and because they consider it a tool that collect data without consent, etc., etc. Well, sometime not really understanding how things work. When internet first came out, they asked to print out all the pages of a website and send them to the National Library, and every time you change it, you need to redo the thing. So, sometimes there is people that create rules that don't really know how things work. But on the other hand, they also raise a case that is actually now discussed in Europe about how training for artificial intelligence is managed. But nonetheless, it's absolutely true. It's a tool that I could not do without. For hobby, I write silly code, and I made a website. It's called artificialdumbness.com, just to oppose the artificial intelligence. So something that will give the wrong answer constantly, and or just don't listen to the person. And it would have taken me a few days in the past, and actually I did it just in a few hours, thanks to ChatGPT 4, that helped me extremely in finding the small mistake that I made or finding the best way to code certain things. Is it true that if I didn't know how to code, probably I wouldn't have been able to actually produce the website, and because the ChatGPT needs to support somebody that knows what it's doing, it cannot do it in your behalf. But it's nonetheless a tool that is really going to leave a huge imprinting in how we live our lives, extremely strong, and is very interesting. So I welcome ChatGPT and all the GPT models.
Just quickly add one example. Recently, I heard from Helsinki. One of the IT companies layoffing, almost 20 programmer because they found a way to, like how to do this repetitive coding through ChatGPT and different artificial intelligence. It's a little bit scary there, right?
A company has put their CEO as a ChatGPT as well. I heard, right? So.
Just to add, because Lola is also cybersecurity expert. So Lola, how do you think about when it comes to, you mentioned about programming and the engine behind, how about the privacy? And then do you think the security by design can play a good role here?
I think it can. It depends on who you mean, who should be programming or coding in the way of secure by design, because of course it's a matter of the definition. So OpenAI is I think should look more into how they can code their GPTs so they're secure by design or safe by design, safe to use. But when you look at our use cases and cybersecurity, I think there is a chance that with GPTs we can help cybersecurity, because it's like a little consultant you can ask questions about, and they may find some control, some technical or organizational security measures they could help you. But as well concerning the software vulnerabilities, as I mentioned before, it's possible that GPTs can find some vulnerabilities for you, but nevertheless you know that everything can be abused as well. So there are use cases where like researchers on cybersecurity have questions. The chatbot I did as well to write an exploit, write a malware, even though the chatbot does not do directly, but it's possible still to overcome the barriers. OpenAI tried to design safe by design. So it can be abused to write malware as well, and therefore facilitate facilitated for cyber criminals.
Yes, absolutely. That brings me to, because we discuss about privacy, and then that brings to my own money, because most of the time my money is there in a bank. We call it financial intermediaries, and it's a good, let's say, turning point to us, Agnelo, because how, the blockchain technology on this kind of bank like financial intermediary and potential of CBDC is replacing, the traditional currency, because Agnelo give an example that the euro holding you, it can be also digital. Can it replace Agnelo? And so what do you see the future?
It can, I think, but the challenge is that central banks and governments basically should be very careful about the sentiment of the general public. I've heard, I talked to a lot of people about CBDC, and a lot of them are concerned that the government will now know whom I'm transferring the money to, even if it is peer to peer. But if you look at the underlying quality of cash, the transactions are anonymous, because banks and governments can never know who I handed over the cash to. The moment you convert this cash to digital form, okay, it becomes possible for central banks and governments to actually track this basically. The question then is, are central banks and governments trying to really track this? Maybe not, but I know from what's happening here in this part of the world, that central banks, one of the key challenges that they are trying to kind of solve with digital currency is that how do you protect, or how do you maintain the basic attributes of cash? And one of the key attribute of cash is non-traceability basically, right? And that is something that they are striving to kind of hold. But as general public, we are always worried, right? As things are getting digitalized, as digital being transformed, we always worried that somebody is tracking us, our information is out in the open. Now the governments are trying to track our money. So I think there is a thin line over here, and at some point of time, governments and central banks should be able to instill confidence with the general public that this is not really happening. But that is one of the largest concerns that the general public will have. But that is also one of the largest challenges that banks or central banks and governments are trying to solve as far as CBDC is concerned, really speaking.
Excellent. Basically, the concern, as you mentioned about, people has their own money, they don't want to convert into digital currency because it can be, it's an open ledger, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Not only
so
open ledger.
In Europe,
it is not only about open ledger. It is, like I said, the traceability of transactions. Basically, today, black money cannot be traced because of cash being moved from one place to the other. But at the same time, as a citizen, I am allowed to use some cash. And then if that cash itself is being traced and tracked, basically, then I'm concerned about privacy as an individual. Okay? And every individual would be concerned about it, really speaking.
Yes. Just to give an example, because we in Europe since last 10 years are working on the digital euro, and now we have with one. The uses, the section of uses are very different. Young people are very keen to use because in many cases they don't care about privacy. Currently, they don't realize. So if I will ask, for example, to Arab, because she's more like a businesswoman, so would you be worried?
Well, we have also a cultural issue, right? Which is why would we need to do this? Because right now, the largest wealth transfer ever in the history of the world is occurring, and that is going to women and to younger people. So to the point about understanding your target market, you have a choice. You either educate the populace on what the pros and cons are of centralized and decentralized, but you have to make it super simple. But we also have to recognize that the centralized banks and our governments have a vested interest in maintaining control. So when you say, okay, the Biden administration, for example, I believe they started a decentralized arm of the government so they could understand it. But you need to always understand, what the stakeholder really wants. And then, of course, you have to understand who is making the decision. So I think, based on what I heard from my daughter as I was headed off to a cryptocurrency or a Bitcoin, a panel that I was on, I asked her if she knew anything about it. And this was 2 years ago. She says, Mom, of course, this is what we talk about in physics class. And we take breaks and we play card games and we talk about Bitcoin. So I don't know that we really go, even though we're risk averse, even though adults are like, let's put the money under the mattress, depending on what country you're from. I don't think we're really going to have much of a choice. So the financial services industry, again, a laggard for compliance and legal reasons and very legitimate reasons. It very much scares us. The volatility scares us because the volatility is where the lawsuits come.
Yes, very good point. Roberto, please.
Yeah, there are two aspects. Many times when people talk about CBDC, they think it is all or nothing, like no more cash, everything is electronic, or they can collive the two things, and it's an absolute necessity because there are better use case for cash, better use case for digital currencies, etc., etc. One funny thing is when you have a ledger wallet in your pocket with 100 Bitcoin inside that are worth million, and you cross at the airport that says you cannot take more than $20,000 cash. Do you think, like, or not? It's like my money are not with me; they are in the blockchain, so I'm safe. But at the same time, I have 2 of my 4 kids are teenagers now. And when I was a kid, my mom would give me some money. I go out with friends and we buy an ice cream or something. Now their life is fully online. And so even when it comes to just buy a present for a friend, it's going to be online because they are online. Online cash is no use. So I can give them as much cash as I want. They just look at it. They can now spend it to buy some avatar for their video game rather than and all the payment service, because of regulators, require to be 18 years or older in order to move money online. So there is this difficult space for today teenagers where they need to be able to have some pocket money to spend for some stuff independently, but they need to ask the parents, can you please buy for me my Roblox hat, wings, or whatever. And in these terms, either they start lying on their date of birth, or they have some other tools that allow them to share, spend, buy a present for a friend. Is a very gray area at the moment because it's not being regulated appropriately. But teenagers today live online more than offline, and it's a fact. We cannot avoid to see that.
How true. My teenager boy is there, and I can relate with you what you are saying. Now, quickly, we have about 8 minutes of main session remaining, and we will have half an hour discussing with our audience. And I hope our audiences keep posting their questions so we can actually discuss along the way. Of course, we have about, let's say, 38 minutes to continue discussing. So it's a good point to go to the next phase. Next slide, please. You probably come across this, diffusion of innovation. It's a model, and most of the time, all technology going through this phases. What do you think? If I ask you generally, if anyone want to say about diffusion of innovation, and do you think we are going through these phases in a blockchain as well as artificial intelligence?
I think,
please.
Yeah, I think concerning GPTs specifically, I think we are at late majority at the moment, and yeah, the early majority time was maybe at the end of last year, and yeah, now I think most of the people know that GPTs exist.
Yes, I think R&D has, that's a good point, Lola, but R&D has, I think, also some other view, or I don't know. Please, R&D, go ahead.
I think that I'm a marketing person as well. I have 30 years of marketing experience, and it's all about the target market, right? So it depends. It depends on age. It depends on culture, like where you're at, the access that you have to technology, right? So if you were to ask me where on this chart Wall Street is, they're definitely the skeptics and the laggards. But the general population, or let's say the 100 million plus people that are on ChatGPT, I would agree with Lola that it's more a late majority.
And just to, yeah, Agnelo, I'm taking your, but just to say, like, continue discussing, yeah, is, don't you think we are in the phase of, like in a chasm, that still we are not completely transforming from Google to more or less like an AI model? Agnelo, please.
So from a blockchain perspective, if I talk about, right, basically, and I said earlier, blockchain is a relatively newer technology, right, very young actually at this thing, and there are early adopters, and I call these early adopters because if you today look at where a lot of prototypes or POCs on blockchain are getting created, it's happening in the financial services space. Actually, financial services space has always been at the forefront of technological innovation, whether it is AI, blockchain, or any other technology that has happened. Right? So, and they have actually carried them. A lot of large banks that we know about, really speaking, they in fact have their own coins. If you look at JPMC, has got JPM coin, right? Wells Fargo has got its coin.
Yes.
So really speaking, we are at that point. We've crossed the innovators where techies were trying to play around with it and trying to come up with it, right? So we've already crossed that, and after having crossed that, we've tried to educate customers about how this technology can be leveraged in the future, really speaking. So it is really at an early adopter space. Its ChatGPT moment is not come as yet, basically. As I
think Arod has a, yeah, I agree. I think Arod has a nicely summarized that it depends on which group we are talking about. So when you ask to Lola, she is a very technical person. She works in technology. So she knows that ChatGPT has been used widely, but when it comes to blockchain, maybe, we are a bit behind. There is one more slide if I ask to host. Yes, Roberto, I'll take it to you, but let's go to next slide. So our audience can also follow. Next slide, please. Yeah, it's about impact and then future, right? So this will give us a very good kind of a roadmap with a product and service life cycle and innovation cycle. So do you think they are going parallel, or do you think it's in a different phases? Because when Lola says it, she talk about the ChatGPT. That is more or less, to me, it's a product service. It's not a core technology like artificial intelligence. Roberto, please go ahead.
In fact, exactly that's the point that I wanted to say. They're completely different things. So the GPT is not yet embedded. Well, it is already, but not as much as people need to want to use it, right? There is an option of choice. Blockchain should tend to be something that is behind the service. People don't even know they're using it, right? On top of it, they are transforming. So it's not a technology that is precisely there, and people use it and then get tired of it. These are constantly changing and becoming better and transforming daily. So this chart should be three-dimensional, not two-dimensional, to have a better understanding of the evolution of it.
Brilliant. I think some slide, Lola, there is some slide to see what is going on. What's the science behind this one? So if I ask host to go to slide, please. Slide, please. I think it's lagging, is it? Let's continue our discussion. Lola, what do you?
Yeah.
One slide, please.
To the slide.
You can summarize because we are closing soon.
Okay.
So please go to next slides. Yeah. So this is where I think we are talking about 2030. We have a very less time. We already cover quite a few things, but some of the rates, I really like this 2084. The author is talking what's going to happen realistically, saying what's going to happen, and some of the things we mentioned. Lola, your hand was raised, so would you add something here? Very quickly, right? I have only a couple of minutes left.
Quickly to the product view of the technologies, I think as well that concerning the products, we are in a phase which is still in the middle or in the beginning of the middle, because products still have the possibility to raise through AI, through digital ledgers. So I think in that phase, we are at the growing point.
Absolutely. So if we go through a few more slides, so it's to our participant, it can help. Host, please, next slide, please. Yeah, so there are some publication. For example, EC Council has published about blockchain and implementation in this. So as Agnelo was saying, we are in the field of early adopter HS because adoption is a challenge, even though there is, let's say, technology available. Same in AI. So I wrote a paper in 2030 on AI. Next slide, please. Because we want to cover one thing and probably cover a question and answer. So in 2021, we had this kind of seminar and we talk about adoption. Now the entire thing is changed. Next slide, please. So now Australia is no more, the high. Some industry they have mentioned. You as an expert also mentioned about this industry. That's also changing. So within few years, a lot of change happening. Next slide, please. And finally, I would be very, very realistic, right? So there are some reads available on Forbes about the top 50 blockchain company, what they are doing, something about the, let's say, artificial intelligence is a real damage or not. I think it's a good time to close our main session and we continue our discussion in Q&A. Is that okay with all the experts?
Yes, we should, yes.
Great. Excellent. I thank you all, and then we are not stopping here. We have about, let's say, 28, and we will have a question and answer. So I hand over to our host, Ritika.
Thank you so much, everyone. Actually, it was a very, very informative session, and so many comments we have got that we need a part 2 of this session. So I hope that I am actually addressing to the audience that we hope our esteemed panel and our moderator will give us some time in future for this session's part 2 so that we can have more informative session in future. So before we start our Q&A, I just want to inform the audience that today's webinar is in sync with our CBP certification. EC Council's Certified Blockchain Professional is a certification that covers everything you will need to kickstart your career in the blockchain world. It covers fundamentals such as crypto assets and blockchain mining to advanced concepts such as IoT and blockchain, security in blockchain, and much more. It also trains you with hands-on practical training to solve industry use cases and build your uh, applications. Anyone with an EC Council's CBP certification is eligible for 48,000 plus job vacancies globally with an average salary of 90,000 USD per annum. If you are interested to know more, kindly take part in the poll that is going to be conducted now. Yes, Paresh, I am going to copy paste you the questions now one by one, and you can, you can take the questions.
So we have quite a few questions. One of them, it says, it is expected that the AI will have a devastating impact, especially on employment and an employability of the current and next generation. And this is the topic I think we missed to discuss. It was there in our storyline, but because we had an interesting discussion, so we missed it, but now it's the time. So what are your thoughts? Any of our experts would like to say that?
Paresh, I'd like to speak on it.
Yeah, please go ahead, Errol.
So when we were putting together the recent Invest in Women panel, it was basically, financial advisor put it on, it was specifically for women, female advisors, especially, again, given the fact that we're doing this largest wealth transfer. And quite frankly, we had a difficult time finding women who were experts on AI and technology. And this is a relatively, or AI and ChatGPT is a relatively educated group. So to the degree that there was a quote that has been repeated often, which is, it's not that AI is going to take your job, it's that those who know how to leverage the AI will take your job. I don't know that that's real comforting to people. I think that, I know we've discussed a number of times, and at one point, Yang, who was running for president in our country, the issue of a basic universal income, or the alleged 300 million jobs that will be displaced by AI per a Goldman Sachs study. So I guess, again, we have to be very, very proactive on this, that there's a whole generation of people, at least in our country, who are not even technologically literate. And quite frankly, without trying to get too political, it's how we ended up with Donald Trump. Because a lot of people felt like, well, the Mexicans or these people of color were taking the jobs, but it actually was technology that took a lot of the jobs. So clearly, you know, this is something we need to be very proactive about.
Indeed. So I think the time, as Ritika was saying about the certification, maybe, you know, we continue developing ourselves, upgrading ourselves, and then maybe leverage this technology for our career, isn't it?
Yeah, I would like to add something as well, because I totally agree with Antoinette, and I would say as well that it's very important to know about how GPTs are working, how they are coded, and you can as well. I would advise to check out on GitHub. There are the papers from OpenAI published there. And as well the code from previous models. You can just try out and build your own model, and try to find out what is actually needed, what data is needed, what you can do to build your own GPTs. And this as well would help to reduce the risk of information flow. It could help businesses to create their own GPTs and feed it with their data, so that the GPTs is generating answers based on the data they know it was fed with. So this is, I think, a really good skill to know about the AIs and the technology behind it.
Absolutely. I think we all agree that there is a need to identify the opportunity, update our skill, right? So they call it skilling, upskilling, reskilling. That brings me to next question. It says, how can one really get into the cybersecurity? So it's about, you know, specifically one field like cybersecurity without experience. I would add in that, what about even AI, you know? So how can one really get into that cybersecurity without experience? Because even somebody is getting certification without experience, it's very difficult to get in. Do you have any thoughts, Roberto?
Well, that's a classic things, is the chicken or the eggs that come first, right? Experience comes slowly, right? So in the past, people would do simple jobs to the friends or the family friends and start adding them in their CV. I think there is no different, unless extremely special cases where there are some particular news that come along. I think that in terms of cybersecurity, knowing and being able to do can start with really small things and then grow from there. The capacity to sell oneself for doing this consulting or be hired in a company that does this, the question, which experience do you have about it? There is a lot somebody can actually answer. Doesn't have to be say, I took care of the security of a large bank or whatever. You know, even being able to properly set up a computer, understanding, you know, how a network work, or you know, how to set up a firewall properly, and saying that this thing has been applied even to the small store of the cousin of a friend, it will be enough to do the first step, and then from there people move on.
Yes. What
Paresh,
we realized, because this question was specifically for cybersecurity. Sorry if I have interrupted anyone. Is there anything to add?
Paresh, this is
Yes,
Agnelo here.
please.
I come and represent the IT industry, and the
Okay.
IT industry is always looking for people. whether it is cyber security or any other technology skill, there is always a need for skill. So, if the question is, should I get trained and I don't know where to get job? I think that you need to find the right skill to get employed. Really speaking, but you will not find any IT company in India who says that they don't need people. They're always needing people.
Yes. And then just to add what you as an expert are sharing, we have a cybersecurity degree program, fully online. It used to be physical, but now we have fully online, and we cooperate with industry like F-Secure and Nokia and Nixu and other working life partner. So what are they saying? They are not looking for experience. They are looking for someone is more like happy to upgrade their skill, happy to be skilling, reskilling, upskilling themselves, more like a working in international team, and having certain skill, for example, penetration testing or some kind of very specific skill, and they build on top of that. So in our view, our research finding, it says if you have a good portfolio, it's always helpful. Right? It's a visible portfolio. So if you are a web designer, better to having your own website or build for someone else. That can be a good, leveraging technology. Yes, Roberta.
I think there is always this thing. People think I go to the university, come out, and I get the top job. I
Yes.
am a dropout. I drop out from kindergarten. Okay, so my career has been built by practical experiences, successes, and I am the extreme opposite. So I am wrong. I should have done some more studies. Even I was sneaking in the university to listen to lessons. Even I wasn't subscribed or paying. And on the other side, people that just only study, don't do any practical work. There should be a really good mix, and this is in pretty much every industry where there is a lot of theoretical aspect on things, but practice is life. Yeah.
Yeah, I would
Yes.
like to add
When I talk about, portfolio, it's something like experience and then having like a working life skill. We call it working life skill. So
Right.
it's something I think our audience can leverage. There is one more question. It says, I use ChatGPT on daily basis. It's good for problem like find prime number or easy problem. But when I try to use to solve more complex problem, right? This is quite common question, isn't it? It fails. It always produces wrong code. Uh, is it because I'm using free version or is there any reason?
Very fast, I can say the difference between ChatGPT 3.5 and 4 is incredible. I made a meme the other day where, because after 25 interaction in 3 hours, it cut you off. You need to go to 3.5. And I was like, I feel like talking to an idiot now because it's really incredible. So I'm looking for the number 5, and a new interaction. So yes, indeed. But how question is asked, I saw that there are job offers paying up to $300,000 per year for people that can write the prompt properly.
Right.
How to write the prompt is a key to get the right answer. So, invest a lot of explanations in the prompt, and that is going to succeed better.
Excellent, Robert. That brings me to this book, right? Because in this book it says it's not a real intelligence. That's the key difference. It's called artificial intelligence. Right? So as Roberto, you mentioned and Erod also mentioned that we need something backend, right, to produce this intelligence. Otherwise, there is no, let's say, intelligence. It's everything is artificial there. Do you agree on that? Yes.
Am I? Well,
Yes, please.
I wanted to talk a bit about what Roberto just saying. When we did a poll recently, a live poll of the hundreds of women who were in the room who were in wealth management, and we asked them how many had used ChatGPT. It was maybe 15% of the room. So most had not.
Not
And when you're thinking about, how to, like, for example, I did train my 81-year-old neighbor on how to use ChatGPT and why it was important to her. She's diabetic, and she spends a lot of time cooking things and making healthy food. So I told her, instead of using Google, you can treat this like your digital assistant, and you're going to train it on what you want your answers to be. And the more detailed your answers are, the better will be the result. So she was able to very quickly, I mean, she went crazy. She's 81 years old. She's amazing. So not only did she get diabetic health, you know, she was like, okay, I have these ingredients. Please create this recipe for me. But then beyond that, because she's a little bit of an entrepreneur, she has an eBay, you're familiar with eBay, right? An eBay account. And she was able to take the descriptions for the items that she wanted to sell, this little jewelry and clothing, and she was able to put it into ChatGPT, and it gave her these very, very flowery, you know, probably, you know, some of the hallucinations, very used car salesman type of responses. But anyway, those are my comments.
Yeah, absolutely. And that brings me to Agnelo mention about, you know, the blockchain is in a just when we talk about the innovation cycle. We are in early phase or just level. So still, you know, we are not getting reliable answer from the artificial intelligence. Of course, there is a varied model available. Maybe Lola want to add something here.
Yeah, sure. I wanted to add as well that it's important to know that GPTs are artificial and that they can help solve problems, but they will not solve your problems. You still, like what I would say, it's the best thing is to still sometimes just put the phone away and read a book and think about yourself, about the code, what could be improved, where are the vulnerabilities, because you can use the chatbot to help you solving problems and to help you decision making, but the decision making should be yours. And if you don't understand anymore what GPT is telling you, that's the point when you should maybe first train yourself and read and try to solve problems yourself, so that you will always be able to understand what artificial intelligence or human intelligence is recommending to you. And what I can say as well, if anybody would like to join ZEISS, because I'm really proud of my company, and we are experimenting a lot of things with GPTs, AIs, and we are welcome to join.
Yes, there are quite a few comments, and Lola, I agree with you. It goes along with what you are saying. So I will not read through that comment, but some question about, let's say, if someone has been scammed through social engineering to invest in a fake cryptocurrency platform, what can be done to recover the asset to victim, and how to seek justice on the currency platform for a scammer? I would ask to Agnelo or Roberto, because they are like every day using and working around the platform.
I am in this moment actually helping somebody that fell for this, and this can be useful for everybody listening, their family. There is one aspect for online scam of any sort. We all receive this email about the millions of dollars that we need to have transfer and keeping a cut of it, etc., etc. If we notice those emails, it doesn't take much to understand there is a scam. Grammatically, they're not perfect. They let transpire there is a scam, and this is done purposely, not because the person writing is not able to make a good one. It's done purposely so they automatically eliminate people that will be just wasting their time because they will not fall for the scam. And they filter automatically all the victim. There is people that believe things, they don't analyze things properly. So this is the first approach. When it comes to social engineering online, the classic things, and I entertain a lot, because if they waste time with me, they cannot waste time with other people scamming them. It's classic being approached in Facebook by a very beautiful woman for a man, or vice versa, and it shows that is having a very good lavish lifestyle, spending a lot of money. Classic to me, he showed me 5 different Rolex that worth $100,000 or more, and say, "Hi, which one I should give as a present to my friend?" And then why are you giving this price? Oh, because this friend of mine make me a lot of money thanks to investment. You want to do the same? I give you for free $10,000 to start. And then people start sending money to these people. And I help trace these criminals as well. And actually, I'm doing it in this moment for some people because not all the time they're very smart as well. So they can fall for small trip. It's like opening particular links online and being traced with their IP, and then working with law enforcement, we can localize. But gaining back the funds, that's all, an aspect that is to be seen, not technically, meaning that there is no hacking things to get the money back, but it's more like they're facing 50 years of prison or 20 if they return the money. They probably help to recover part of the funds when they get caught. Yeah.
Yes. Yes, Agnelo.
So I think prevention is the only cure here, really speaking, right? So when you get such emails, basically, right, or a message or a WhatsApp message, and when we start believing that this is true, maybe you would stop for some time and really find out whether this is true, because uh, you know these are very exciting messages that come to us, basically, right? And if you are able to control your emotions on those messages, then you will not click that link, or maybe you will not take the action that is required to be taken. But like Roberto said, right, these people who do this, they are not always very intelligent and very smart, right? So
Yes.
you can try and understand what's happening, what's going on, basically, and maybe that is the way to kind of. But if you've already lost it, I think it is difficult to get it back, basically, and especially in the cryptocurrency space. This is not the only scam that is happening. There are several other scams that are happening in the cryptocurrency space, and so you should be very, very careful about what your actions are going to be, basically. And this whole idea about get rich overnight, right, is not helping. Really speaking, you can't get rich overnight just because somebody sent you a message or somebody told you about cryptocurrency, because there are more than 2,000 cryptocurrencies, really speaking. You don't know which of these are right, which are wrong, basically.
Absolutely. I think Roberto and you have really directed us to be more secure and how to use securely this technology. But to me, it's challenging because currently, the scam is happening with the young people who neither care about their privacy, neither they realize that the time is for them, it's a money, right? So even if they spend like 1 hour mobile, it's gonna be devastating effect on their career and their get rich scheme. There is a one very, let's say, big statement there I would like to read, and if anyone want to decode that, it's a very big one. So let me read now. It says, forecasting the trends, seasonality of hacking techniques, and perform causal interference between multiple cybercriminal activities and vulnerability parts in our system. So it's more about talking about, like a security by design, and Lola mentioned about security by design. I give one example. So currently in my social media account, somebody has installed a bot. So bot is sending, the messages to my trusted network. So I'm only connected with my close social network is my family or friends. Now these people are wondering that how can Paresh send, this kind of messages, especially when it comes to pornographic message and the scamming message. So they were quite surprised. None of them actually, they never initiating discussing with me, but some very close friend, they actually share with me, and then I was surprised that no, it's not for me. And I work in cybersecurity, working with NATO defense, and we can track down this crooks. That's what we did. So Roberto, do you have any suggestion, because you work day to day in this kind of field?
Yeah, I actually did something silly. I took the question and 101 asked ChatGPT what he thinks about it. And ChatGPT just keep writing since 2 minutes ago a very long, big text. And we can actually have ChatGPT as a guest in the panel as well and share what ChatGPT said if you want. Which says the cybersecurity landscape is rapidly evolving. And forecasting trends, this seasonal hacking technique is essential in staying ahead of potential threats. As some notable organizations working on such tools, because the question was asking that, is IBM Security, Splunk, Rapid7, Darktrace, and give all the explanation of their tools. The reliability of this product and service depend on factors such as the level of integration with existing infrastructure, the quality of the algorithm they use. As a quantum machine learning engineer, you can leverage the QLM technology to enhance the automation of forensic technical investigation in the cybersecurity area. There are potential ways to contribute with enhanced autonomy, anomaly detection, with cryptography, accelerate the pattern of recognition, and collaborate with the cybersecurity organization. But and I just tried to summarize what ChatGPT was telling us, but what my 5 cents on top of it is really that the pattern of behaviors are the key to mitigate and find this kind of attacks in both the technical and humans with social engineering that stays around it.
You have given some nuggets, Roberto, here for security. Now, because we are running out of the time, so we have a last question. And I would like to, open the floor for all our experts, because we are going to close soon our seminar in 4 minutes. So the last question says, it is expected that the AI will have a devastating impact on employment, employability. Did I cover, I think? But let's discuss on that, because I'm also very keen to know this one. Employment, employability of the current and next generation. What are your thoughts? We already discussed, but my thing is, what's going to happen in 2030? So if we consider artificial intelligence or blockchain, realistically, what do you think? And how can we as an expert leverage? So if I may ask from Lola, because she has been a bit quiet recently. Lola, what do you think about artificial intelligence?
Yeah, I think in 2030, artificial intelligence will be playing a much more much greater role in our lives. It will be in several applications, browsers. There will be chatbots, and as well, a lot of new products will emerge. I think as well, a lot of new jobs, of course. A lot of new jobs will emerge and others will disappear.
Yes. It's my thoughts also align with what you are saying, but let's also hear from our other expert, like Aero. Do you want to add something?
Yes, I think that obviously my space is in financial services, but given my personal history, I think and hope that there's going to be a democratization of the technology in terms of who benefits from it, right? So the biggest areas that I see being affected, I mean, here I am sending my daughter off to college. And one of the things they said in a panel was that we are training these students for jobs that don't exist yet. So this is a relatively educated group, but what happens with everybody else? Will we leave them behind? So I think we have to, I mean, when you think, for example, science, right? You can right now, AI can detect cancer 4 years before the human eye. So that's obviously a good. Learning styles for children. If you have an autistic child, for example, 2030, I would love to see that we have taken these tools and used them for good in terms of personalizing education and not just wiping out, hey, allowing the kids to, let's say, cheat on, if you want to call it cheat on tests, right? So anyway, that's my hope by 2030 that we have a democratization of finance, a democratization of education, science, and also a democratization of gender. We need more women in AI and tech.
Yes, I'm also a big advocate of women, or let's say equality participation. Roberto, we are running out of the time. If you want to say in a quickly, half a minute.
No, I was just saying, hopefully 2030 there's to be only 2 genders, because where we're going, they're gonna be like 50 different ones. It's gonna become very, very confused.
Exactly. When I ask, Lola and Aero, that's what my point is, that we have 2 experts on blockchain. Now we need 2 women experts on AI. This is a very good, let's say, the milestone to close our panel. But before I close, I will give you one research update. Texas University has recently, this week, they have released a tool, AI tool, which can actually read our human mind and then translate into text. So whatever I'm thinking, it will be translated and printed, right? And their accuracy rate is almost 90%. Phenomenal, right? Right. So that's the good point to end our panel discussion. I heartily thank all my panel experts and also to participant. Without you, this panel cannot be finished. And we ask you to connect with all our experts. You know the name, you have all the information. They are on the different social network. You connect with us and we learn from each other. I thank you, grateful to all the participants and our expert. Over to Ritika, please.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, so much, because we have got so many requests for our next session. So I hope and like we can hope and plan for our next session in next quarter. So thank you so much. So before we end the session, like for our attendees, do you have any message? Paresh, Lola,
Please,
or Ira, or anyone?
the last message, right?
For our attendees, any message you want to deliver? Any
Yes, to
closing message?
our attendee, I have a two message. One, number one, everyone is thinking about the career. So I would definitely recommend you to having a blockchain certification or AI certification. EC Council has a wonderful offering. Um, get yourself updated. That is number one. Number two, let's connect together, right? Agnelo is available on LinkedIn. Arod is available. Roberto available. Lola is also available. Is there anything else you want to add?
I would like to add that it's not just technology. What the businesses are looking for, government is looking for, is a balance of humanities and technology, the human side of it. So you have to have the soft skills as well to be able to translate and leverage the technology.
Absolutely.
I second that actually, because just technology is not going to help actually. You need to have that right balance. Otherwise, we will become just AI. Actually.
Absolutely. Being human, right? That is, yes, Roberto.
Let's remember the software is software. If we run it and we are subject to the consequences, so it's always a matter of knowing what we're doing, what tools we're using, and what is on and off switch in devices.
Yes. Lola, do you want to say last word and then we close the seminar?
Yeah, I would as well recommend to always stay curious and think about like how you can develop yourself in the way of soft skills, in the way of in the technical field. It's both very important. I agree.
Thank you. And our discussion is not stopping here. We can maybe, as Ritika was suggesting, we can having a session number 2 and we continue pouring more on this. Thank you very much, everyone, and
Thank
have
you
a
so
wonderful
much,
evening.
everyone.
Thank you.
Before we end the session,
Namaste to everyone. Yes.
Yes, before we end the session, I would like to announce our next Cyber Talk session, that is preparing your team for incident report, training and simulation exercises, is scheduled for 18th May 2023. The session is an expert presentation by Mike Admon. The registration link is in our website, which is www.eccu.edu/cyber-talks. The link is given in the chat section. Hope to see you all in 18th May, and you all may disconnect your line. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
everybody. Bye.
Thank you.